Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. I hope it finds you well on this Saturday morning. I hope it's fine wherever you are around the world. Just when you thought that Celtic maybe wait till Monday, they dropped a bomb last night. And after all the love bombs that they dropped yesterday afternoon in social media and platforms to talk up Celtic and talk about new beginnings, to talk about the Barrafield facility being opening and all the good that brings to the club, and then talking about the closure, unfortunately, of the superstore on Argyle Street. But it's a new beginning because they're opening an even bigger store in conjunction with Adidas. This is something that I've seen happening around Europe. Clubs that are affiliated to Adidas opening in stores conjunction, then they have a store which is basically all Celtic gear, and then they'll have the Adidas range, and then in a little corner they'll actually have strips from other clubs. I've seen that in 3 different Adidas stores in Spain, and it seems to be the way forward for Adidas. But let's get to the big one that came last night. Now, there's 2 things I want to talk about this morning. The fan collective, the Celtic Fans Collective, after having their consultancy meeting in Gracie's in Glasgow on Wednesday the 10th, had their first full-on meeting last night. We'll go into that in a minute. But we'll talk about the club first of all, and Celtic FC. Celtic last night released their results for the previous financial year ending the 30th of June. That doesn't bring in a lot of the stuff that happened after that, but some of the results are the key operational items. The winners of the SPFL and Premier Sports Cup in season 24-25 lost out in the treble to Aberdeen, remember. Participation in the group stages of the UEFA Champions League in the season 24-25, achieving 12 points. Exactly what I said. I said that was my target. And they could have done better, let's face it, but it was a good account of herself. Qualification to the knockout phase of the playoffs in the Champions League. 29 home matches played at Celtic Park, 24 games. Key financials, this is where it gets really, really to the nitty gritty, isn't it? Let's get it up on the screen. Yes. Here we do have it on the screen for you. Group revenue increased 15% to 143 million from 124 million the previous year. Operating expenses, including labour, increased 11% to 117 million. Gain on player registrations, 31 million. 31.5 million, up from 6.6 million. Player acquisitions was 38 million, was up from 16 million. Profits before tax, 45 million, and that's compared to 17 million the year before. Profits after tax, once the taxman took his little share, is 33.9 million, up from 13 million. Year-end cash is sitting at 77 million, and you may be thinking, why is it only sitting at 77 million? Why is it not nearer the 100 million? You've got to remember that they've paid for the Lennoxtown facility in cash. No bank loan, no nothing. So that has been paid out, and we owe no money on that. So you could say that that's a good thing from the club. I am going to talk about the positives. I'm not going to come on this morning and just berate the board and slate the board, because we have to give them credit where credit is due as a company and the way that they run the club. I know that fans, we'll get onto the fan statement side of it in a minute, but we have to go in sort of level. We can't just go in to fucking look at the money they've made. I'm pleased, the chairman's statement, I'm pleased to report on another successful year for Celtic Football Club, both on and on the pitch. The club. Have I either got in the club in brackets? Because it's not the company. like across the road. Both off and on the pitch, at the year end of the 30th of June 2025, saw the club continue our domestic success, coupled with a memorable European campaign and delivery of a strong set of financial results. I congratulate Brendan and his backroom staff and all our players for a memorable season. Revenue increased to 143 million. The increase driven by significant uplift in match day income and UEFA rights distributions following a successful Champions League. Now, match day income is obviously people spending in the Superstore, people spending in Celtic Park. You know, that's where they're talking about for that. Everyone knows my thoughts. Immediate ban on merchandise. If you want to get change at Celtic, just have an immediate ban on merchandise and that will soon get them to wake up and smell the coffee. The reflected is the expanded Champions League format, which now guarantees 8 matches over the previous 6. The fact that we reached the playoff round, profit and tax increased. Some strong revenue, substantial gains from player trading, 31 million. These gains were relatively reinvested in the squad. Despite these strong earnings, the cash is broadly flat at 77 million the year before. During the year, we heavily invested in the first team, and it goes on. Labour costs at the highest level in the history of the club. Total including committed agent fees were 42.6 million. Clubs are assisting. We're going to jump through. There's not a lot being said about the fact that we did spend out all the money. The board shares the ambition of our supporters. This is where the love bomb comes in. The board shares the ambition of our supporters to see the strongest possible team on the pitch. We will continue to balance the short-term performance with long-term financial stability. We must factor in the long-term implications of all decisions made today. This strategy will be vital to Celtic, and it has been pivotal to our success over the last 20 years. On the pitch, the club secured our 55th title, going for 56. Come on there. You've got to have a little bit of, we also lifted the Premier Sports Cup, defeating Rangers and reaching the Scottish Cup final. Narrowly missing out on a domestic treble after losing out on penalties to Aberdeen. In Europe, we embraced the new Champions League, blah, blah, right? We're not against this. We know we got close to Bayern Munich for a little bit. And we ended up getting beat 3-2. The Champions League was great, and we all knew what we needed to do. We needed to improve the squad quick. We needed to get players in quick. We needed to keep the foot down. We didn't need to fall asleep at the wheel. And unfortunately, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay and Peter Lawwell, you fell asleep at the wheel. You didn't get players in quick enough, and thus affected the performance of the team in the Champions League qualifier. And for that alone, and they're going about the women's football and a number of things. During 2025 summer transfer window, the club undertook a number of changes in the men's first team squad. Our ongoing strategy was to refresh blah blah blah. The playing group, we signed 11 players. We signed Shinyamada, Rostohan, Benji, Kieran, Callum, Inamura, Balwishka, Tanekte, and Inecho. This was all done after the 30th of June. They're very, very... The figures, to let you understand, are till the 30th of June. All the things they're now talking about has happened after the 30th of June. We recognise the frustration and disappointment of our supporters with respect to the timing of some of these incoming acquisitions. We will always look to improve, however, we operate to overcome challenges where possible. Registrations of Gustav Lagerbielke, Nico Kuhn, Adam Ida, Mitchell Frame, Tillio, Kwon, permanently transferred to other clubs. Scott Bain, Greg Taylor, Daniel Cummings, leaving for free. Daniel Cummins, a fantastic prospect that came through the club. We couldn't secure him in the long term. And Greg Taylor, who was once valued by £8 million by Celtic Football Club, was allowed to leave the club for free. That is negligence on the highest level by the Celtic board. Why? Because David Turnbull was sold the year before with only 6 months left on his contract, and we got £3 million for him. And you may say, that's a fantastic piece of business, £3 million for David Turnbull. We allowed, because of the pure negligence of these people running the club, they could not get in a replacement for Greg Taylor. When Kieran Tierney came to the club, Kieran Tierney says, yeah, they tried to do it at the last window. We still haven't got a permanent replacement for Kieran Tierney. We've got someone in that position on loan currently. The inadequacies of the club have been laid bare by all to see over the last couple of years. Stephen Welsh and Lewis Palmer departed on loan. We thank them for the contribution. Looking forward, myself and the executive team, we will continue to represent our club at the highest level of domestic and European football, given the financial disparity that now exists across European leagues. The disparity that in Scotland, some will say, and maybe it's karma, some people will say in Scotland, the fact that, it's using that as an excuse as to not get players in quick enough. We're never going to be on the same financial terms as Real Madrid, Barcelona who thought, we need to make more money, we'll knock our stadium down, we'll rebuild it as 105,000 capacity. Because they know that they'll fill it and people will stay to the end of the games for the whole 90 minutes, and then they'll spend lots of money in and around the footprint of the stadium. But not as much as what Celtic fans do, trust me, because the Spanish, they take packed lunches to games. Throughout the year, we had the sadness of the passing of Lisbon Lions. John Clark, John Fallon, absolutely fantastic men in their own right, and former chairman Jack McGinn all passed. And they were immense throughout the history and the legacy of Celtic. My sincere gratitude and thanks go out to the club supporters whose season after season give their unwavering support. Thanks must also go to our hard-working, dedicated employees whose contribution is vital to the success we've had in recent years. Peter T. Lawwell, Chairman, 19 September 2025. It's interesting that they put that out yesterday. They usually put it out on a Monday morning as the stock exchange opened. They put it out last night as the stock exchange closed, to give themselves a little bit of breathing space over the weekend. They know that Brendan Rodgers will not want to talk about this after the game. He will speak to the media after the game this weekend, and he'll be here to talk about the game, and that's it. Yesterday we saw Brendan Rodgers talk about the fact that he wanted to leave that aside. We'll talk about the football stuff. I think, looking back on the interview yesterday, I think Brendan Rodgers was briefed by someone a bit better than the normal PR guy, and that came across in the interview yesterday. It wasn't just Brendan Rodgers being his usual concise self. It was well thought out and planned, and some of the responses that he was going to give to questions, you could definitely see that. It is what it is, the finances, when we look at the profitability of the club. It's Celtic fans that make it profitable. Celtic fans deserved a lot better in the last transfer window, and the club have kind of accepted responsibility. But where do we go from here? This is the big thing. During the week, the Celtic Fans Collective had their meeting. After a consultancy meeting in Graces in Glasgow on Wednesday the 10th of September, many supporters put their name forward to the steering committee to help navigate the initial weeks and months of the fan movement. And the fan movement will be called the Celtic Fans Collective. I fully back the Celtic Fans Collective. Having been seated within a certain area of Celtic Park for many, many years, there's a lot more than just noise, and there's a lot of stuff that's went on over the last 20 years at Celtic that have been good, that have been bad, and they've been unbelievable. And if you want to go back and check some of the earlier videos on the channel, please do. And I'm talking 15 plus years ago. Go and check them out. Green Brigade stuff. And stuff like that has never really changed, and it's never gone away. On Monday the 15th of September, the fan organisation met to discuss form the group reflected a broad range of signatories and an open letter to the wider Celtic support. Remember, this isn't just one little organisation, it is the bigger Celtic support. And I am starting to see sort of people questioning things online. But you've got to remember, there was 420 organisations, fan media, groups, Celtic supporters clubs all involved in this together. It's been the one time that we have come truly together as a fan base, and I hope it continues, because we do need to put pressure on these people. Will one of them getting the chop be enough? Do you know, will someone has to take responsibility for the negligence that went on in this summer's window? Their heads has to roll. It has, you know, in no other organisation would you get away with such negligence that will have such a direct impact on the financial stability of the club and the financial. We're not going to reach 140 odd million this year. We'll be lucky to reach 120 million in revenue over the coming year, due to the fact that the Champions League does take up a big chunk of money. The representation in the steering group are as follows: the Celtic Supporters Association, the Affiliated Registration Celtic Supporters Club, the Affiliation of Registered Celtic Supporters Clubs, the Association of Irish Supporters Clubs, the Celtic Trust, Fans Against Criminalisation, the Celtic Disabled Supporters Association, the Green Brigade, the Boys, the North Curve Celtic. There's 3 fan media's group are in on the meetings. I fully support and back everything that they do. And I know I don't speak for everyone on this channel, but for me personally, the channel has always backed these type of things, and it will continue to do so. There was 10 Celtic supporters clubs from England, Scotland and Ireland in attendance also. The steering group meeting was on the 17th of the 9th. The meeting opened by acknowledging the strong supporter response to the joint statement, the fan survey and the initial gathering, confirming the clear desire for change in the club leadership, governance and approach to supporters. You've got to remember, this is the only time that the board really do talk to the supporters, is through the statement that they put out on a yearly basis when it comes to giving themselves a little pat on the back. And, you know, you've achieved your bonus this year, Mr. Nicholson. You'll get your £92,000 pension payment this year, Michael Nicholson. You'll get your £100,000 bonus this year, Michael Nicholson. The AGM strategy, matchdays actions, a programme of visible actions will continue at upcoming fixtures, beginning with Partick Thistle to sustain the momentum built towards the AGM. The AGM strategy is to mobilise shareholders, preparing resolutions and questions, coordinating a visible protest around the meeting were identified as major priorities. Communication, a pool of representatives will speak on the behalf of the movement to ensure the collective identity and unity across supporters groups. Evidence-based research will be undertaken on the governance, finance and comparative models across football to strengthen the case for reform. Structure. The steering group will also operate as a central body with dedicated subgroups. The campaign will operate under the agreement of the name the Celtic Fans Collective. It will work hard to establish a dedicated communications channel and involve supporters with relevant skills into subgroups. The meeting closed with the agreement on shareholders' short-term visibility, medium-term escalations towards the AGM, which is coming up soon. The long-term reform of the club's governance. The steering group agreed to formalise its structure. Its main body of 23 will provide oversight, while the working groups will take responsibility for each delivery. Each subgroup will include a steering member to ensure the coordination, but they will be open to any supporter with skills and time to contribute. The agreed working groups are. Now, if you do have any set of skills that you think would help the group at this stage, please get in touch with either myself or get in touch with the North Curve Celtic Twitter. And if need be, I can give you the email address, because we want as many talented people as possible to be involved in this. You know, if you run your own business and you think you can bring a set of skills to help this, so be it, come forward. If you're a social media manager, if you're a marketing consultant, I don't know, whatever they need. Protest and match day actions, the one of the groups. Communications, corporate governance and shareholding research if you're a lawyer that wants to get involved and pass up some of your free time as a dedicated and honoured Celtic supporter, passionate about your club, please help us. And then they're talking about supporter engagement and fan media. The steering group chat will be created and followed by subgroup chats, shared drive, and will hold documents and evidence. The campaign name is the Celtic Fans Collective, has been agreed on by all. Social media accounts will be up quickly to create an independent identity, not tied to any supporters' organisation. Let's face it, there are a lot of people that don't like the ultra scene in football, and I think that it's right that if they were to be seen as the beholders of the power going forward, it may put some fans off. I accept that, and I accept the fact that, we are all aiming for the same thing, but we don't all need to agree on different things within the ground. If you don't like ultras, so be it. Ultras maybe don't like you sitting down on your arse doing nothing. Sorry. Eating your crisps and drinking your Bovril. I love all fans, just saying. The steering group will be created to follow subgroups chats in the Celtic Collective. We're going to go in closing. The meeting confirmed that the unity and purpose of the short-term visibility and the medium-term escalation towards the AGM, developing an argument for long-term governance reform, succeed with weekly activity, wider pool of spokespeople, effective coordination across subgroups. The mission statement: the Fans Collective exists to unite supporters and representative bodies, advocates for interests of all Celtic fans. We strive to ensure that Celtic Football Club operates with transparency, accountability and ambition aligned with the values and aspirations of its supporters. The overreaching aim is to modernise the governance and the strategic direction of Celtic Football Club by ensuring that a clear vision that reflects the ambition of the support, transparent and respectful relationship between club and supporters, corporate governance standards benefiting the organisation of Celtic scale and reputation. The values are collective as a guide of the following principles: democracy, decisions are driven by the voices and mandate of supporters. Integrity, the collective will act with transparency, evidence and accountability. Ambition, the collective will demand the highest standard off and on the pitch of the club. Independence, the collective will operate free from influence, representing only the interest of Celtic fans. The objectives: to obtain credible, transparent and comprehensive answers from the Celtic board on 7 original questions to the open letter of the 3rd of September 2025. Force change at board level, seeking the removal of current CEO Michael Nicholson, Chairman Peter Lawwell and Financial Officer Chris Mackay. Exposing the failures of non-directors and advocating change in the club's approach to corporate governance. Build an informed case for fan advisory board at Celtic FC. Create a democratic fan movement to represent the collective in positions and hold the board to account long term. I think that is a well written and very, very precise, concise document that was put out around about the same time, funnily enough, as Celtic decided to put out. And I wonder if Celtic had a little nod and wink that the Fans Collective were, and it was no surprise that the two of them came out in conjunction. Or is that just me thinking that? Has anyone else thought that? To fight fire with fire, to try and put out the flames of the fire. It's when I think they got a nod and a wink from someone, personally. I think that someone got information when the Fans Collective were going to put out theirs, and Celtic said, well, we'll put our financials out about the same time. It's maybe just me, or am I looking into it too much? Anyway, give me your thoughts on this in the comment section. Tell me what you think about the club and the vast amounts of money that we have made, and more to the fact that the inability of the board to bring in the players that Brendan Rodgers needed for us to qualify for the Champions League. I think that's the biggest takeaway from the document that Celtic released is they are accepting responsibility. When you accept responsibility for a failure, there has to be an outcome. Will that outcome be the head of one of the three? Do you agree with the removal of all? There's so many questions that the bigger fan base will talk about, and I'm sure that we'll talk about it over the space of the weekend. On that note, have a fantastic morning, Celtic fans, wherever you are, and I truly mean that, every single one of you, wherever you are, all around the world.